All right, a very good morning once again, everybody. It is that time, so let's get started. But I thought maybe let's just make a few announcements before we start. So what is going to happen? This is a free session, as mentioned before. So to attend this session is free of charge. However, we strongly believe for those that are in the industry, you might be in supply chain, logistics, procurement, you might be even in the shipping space, really anywhere in supply chain. If there are career opportunities that require this particular skill when it comes to all things warehousing, whole life asset management, inventory management, you might need something to show for that, right? So at the end of the session, those that are interested in getting certified, you will then have to follow the details as stipulated in the advert. So you'll have to send us an email, or as per the link provided, you can then make a payment for that certificate. That doesn't only come with the certificate, by the way. There's also going to be the course material that will be given access to, the recording of this very session that we are having today. And over and above that, as we said in the advert, we are going to also give you access to our coaching program, the mentorship and coaching program for supply chain and industrial engineering professionals. Don't ask me why only supply chain and industrial engineering, but I mean, based on the topic that we're going to be tackling today, and of course, the bias, Kenneth and myself, coming from, those two industries. I'm a supply chain professional. I've been in the industry for quite some time now. And, having been in the industry, I know the importance of having a coach. So what we've dedicated ourselves is to be people that we never had, in that journey, so that those that are interested in getting a mentor, getting a coach, a supply chain and industrial engineering coach, you are able to then, tap into our expertise, tap into all the material that is out there in the e-learning platform. So the course material, the recordings, that would also be included in the very e-learning platform that you are going to be given access to. So basically, that is the announcement, but we're going to give you, again, more details towards the end in terms of, how to become part of that and give you the relevant details and the link to join the e-learning platform. So with that being said, on the call, we've got Dr. Kenneth. He needs no introduction. I think everyone can see on the screen. So what we're essentially going to do, we are going to be live for the first 30 minutes. Then after that, we encourage everyone to join this private session on Zoom. So the details are out there in our social media platforms, on the LinkedIn page, Facebook. The name of the page is the Supply Chain Academy, SCASA. Otherwise, feel free to also chat to us if you need any further details. So with that being said, I would like to introduce to you Dr. Kenneth. He is going to be taking us through this very exciting topic. And what we are going to be really sharing today, Dr. Kenneth is going to not only present to you, the theoretical aspect, but also the tools, practical stuff that you can actually absorb and immediately apply in your day-to-day work. So that's actually the value proposition in terms of all our sessions, these online courses, be it a webinar, be it a summit. We are very much industry-centric. So that has been our focus. All the programs are delivered by industry experts who come with vast knowledge and experience in various sectors of our economy locally, in Africa, as well as, globally. So with that being said, Kenneth, I'm going to hand over to you. You can take it away, brother. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Truman. And yeah, good morning to everyone that's attended, whether it's on the Zoom platform or whether it's on the streaming platform. So good to be here. Good to have you guys here. I'm not going to go into sort of further detail in introducing myself. I think Truman's done a good enough job for that. If you guys want to check out more detail, you can go onto LinkedIn and have a look and follow me there. We also try to share a lot of articles and those types of things with the intent of trying to pass on some knowledge. So really what we're trying to do is we've learned some stuff, over the last, without giving our age away, over the last 20, 25 years. And really what we're trying to do is to make sure that we impart some of what we learned. And yeah, hopefully you guys find it useful and move your career along. But I must touch on, before I go into the actual content, Truman mentioned two things. The one was why we're doing the coaching, and the second was the practical aspects of what we try to do. And I want to just join that together, and probably going to repeat, Truman, what you said already, is that, so to the guys on the call, what we're really trying to do is to impart what we know, not just theoretically, but from a practical application point of view. So when I go through the session today, I'll be trying to link it back to real world things. Like Truman said, the purpose of learning, and you'll see it in the next slide, is not a one-way thing. Coaching is actually a discussion. Mentoring is a discussion. Learning is a discussion. It is not, sorry, my wife's a teacher, so I probably shouldn't say this too loud, but it's not like school where you just stand and talk, and then hopefully the other person takes notes and learns, and then at the end of it gives it back to you, not that that's what meant to happen at schools, but I know in a lot of cases it does. So that's really what we're trying to do. So I'm gonna encourage you guys to ask the questions. Truman's there, you'll be keeping an eye on all of those things, so he'll obviously pick it up and make sure he stops me, puts the question out there so we can answer it and move on. Okay, so like Truman said, we're going to talk about warehousing and basically asset management, and I'll show you how those two links together, but there's lots of moving parts. I mean, for those of y'all who work in supply chains, y'all would understand there's lots of different elements to supply chains. But for those of y'all who actually don't work in supply chains, y'all are still very much a part of a supply chain. Because you could be in HR, for example, but as long as you are a consumer going to your local Checkers to buy a product, you are part of that supply chain. You're just the end part. What we're going to talk about, excuse me, today is some of the elements in between that gets the product to the shelf. Just moving on. So in terms of our expectations, like we've said before, it's a professional development session, so it's not a one-way lecture. We will have some polls a bit later on. We'll also have one or two breakaway sessions with a little bit of teamwork, if I can call it that. I will be putting up questions on some of the slides, and I'm going to pause for about 30 seconds or 60 seconds, and I'm going to ask you guys to put your thoughts down, and that will trigger further discussion. And that's actually what makes the learning much more richer, much more value adding to all of y'all as well. Time management. The reality is time's our worst enemy. Very different these days, facilitating face-to-face versus on these virtual platforms. So we have to, cater for that as well. And like we said, everything's negotiable. It's very informal. Almost imagine you're in a class with a group of people that you know very well, which makes it a safe space for you to talk and ask questions. So the interaction is very, very encouraged. So the first piece of work I'm going to ask you guys to do is, what are your expectations? So in one line or two lines, tell me what your expectations are. Why are your guys here? So I'm going to pause for 60 seconds, you guys can either unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat functionality. Truman, you'll keep an eye on that, eh?
Absolutely, absolutely. And perhaps just to add, you've mentioned something very important there, Kenneth, that learning is a two-way street. So even when it comes to this session, we really encourage interaction. If there's anything that is going to make you harness the full value that comes with this course, it's really that. So just feel free to interact. You can unmute yourself. You can, type your questions or contribution through the chat box. I'll be watching on that just to make sure that we don't miss your questions or any input there. All right. So keep those questions coming. You can unmute yourself. I see, Asisipo, your mic is on. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Asisipo.
Yeah, I'm more interested in inventory management because there's something that we were doing, actually the class that we were doing regarding the excess inventories that our company had in stores. So I'm more interested in the inventory management part of this day.
Okay, perfect.
Fantastic. Anyone else?
Asisipo as well, if you can, when we get to the inventory management section, if I do forget, please remind me about excess inventory and working capital. Let's have a discussion on that. I'll show you how it links in. Just by the way, given the happenings of the last few weeks, etc., it's good that you guys have inventory at this point in time because supply chains have broken and gotten disrupted. So having that buffer stock is actually useful at this point in time. And do excuse me if I pronounce anyone's name wrong. Don't feel shy. Please correct me.
Okay,
I always say English is not my first language.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I see there's a.
Okay. Yes, Kenneth. I see there's a question from Lung. Okay, it's not a question. So he's saying, Lungelo, I'm interested in warehousing and hope this session will help me.
Okay.
Thank you, Lungelo.
Thank you, Lungelo. I will try and cover. Please, however, bear with me. Warehousing can become a degree all on its own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on certain aspects of warehousing. But Lungelo, please, I'm giving you an overview. If you've got specific questions, whether it's on racking or design or flow or whatever the case might be, it might be relevant to an ambient warehouse versus a chilled warehouse versus a warehouse that stores frozen vegetables. All are very different, similar principles, but slightly different. Please ask me when we get to that section. Then I'll tackle that specifically. Okay. Mr. Hadebe, do you have a poll that you wanted to put on?
Yes, let's go for it. Thank you, Kenneth. So let me do that.
Okay.
So we are going to be running a poll, just a simple question. You can just select your answers, or your answer rather, and submit. Should take about 30 seconds. Great. So the question was, is this topic relevant to your work? I see, okay, the answers are coming, 80%. The response is yes, 20% is no. So I see only, close to 10 people have participated. There's still more responses coming.
Let's give it a few more seconds.
Yep. Right. Okay, great. So 67 said yes, the topic is relevant to their work, and 33% said no. And I see there's been a change of responses from 85 to 67 in terms of the yes. All right, Kenneth, over to you. Thank you, everybody, for your responses.
Okay, no, perfect, guys. Yeah, thank you for that. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we start, to those two individuals that said no, I'm going to take it on as a personal challenge to, by the end of the session, to actually show you why it does play a role in your life. Might not be in your job, but certainly it does have an impact on you as well. And at the end, please, Truman, maybe I want to put that poll up again to see if I manage to convert those two individuals. I'll take that as a challenge, so to speak. Yeah,
I like that.
Okay, so guys, we said this is around warehousing. We said it's around asset management. Let's start with just sort of logistics, or maybe I should say, before I come to logistics, let's talk about a supply chain. I'm going to give you really a little bit of just a high level view, and then we'll sort of talk a little bit and we'll drill down. So when we talk, supply chain, the question is, what is supply chain? And I'm sure in the last few weeks, there's been so much of talk of supply chains. I don't want to talk about why we ended up there. I think that's more an emotional discussion. So let's park that. But really around, there's been a lot of talk about supply chains, disruptions to supply chains, etc. And what do they mean when they talk supply chain? Right? So a very simplistic sort of definition, and I'm not going to ask you guys for the answer because we're limited on time, is everything that you get from the farm that goes to a factory, it then goes to a warehouse. These things are then transported. Okay, they might go to a central distribution center. Sorry guys, just give me 1 second, please.
No problem.
So, sorry about that, guys. I just had to sort of some logistical issues here. It could then go to a distribution center. It could then go to your retailer. And then you as a consumer, right? So art's not my key skill, obviously. So this is what a supply chain is. What are all the activities that gets a product from the farm, right? Let's say cool drink. How does that sugar that goes into the cool drink get from the sugarcane farm all the way through the mill into the factory, like a Coke, gets transported, goes into your warehouses and distribution centers, gets transported to the checkers down the road, and then you walk in and you buy. That end to end is your supply chain. I'm hoping by now, by the way, to those two individuals that said, actually, maybe this doesn't quite impact them. I'm hoping by now that you realize actually it does play a role in your life in some shape or form. You might not be working in the supply chain, but you certainly, every one of us will be a part of it somewhere, even if it just as a consumer at the end. Another part of the supply chain, other than the forward moving sort of activities, is what we call reverse logistics. So in other words, when you bought that packet of sugar, as an example, you took it home and you found that there was something wrong. It was past its sell-by date. You then take it back to the store, who then has to give you a refund. As soon as you bring it back for whatever reason, that there is part of reverse logistics. We saw Tiger Brands add a recall on their canned food. That's a quality issue, reverse logistics. It has to come back. It has an impact on everybody. It disrupts your supply chain. It costs you money. So in essence, that's what your supply chain is. Okay. Now, if we then come to the logistics element, what is logistics? Logistics is at a high level is broken up into two parts: warehouse and I'm not going to use the word distribution. I'm going to use the word movement. Okay, so logistics is the movement of everything, whether it's from your farm to your factory, whether it's inside your factory, whether you're moving it from one department to another department, whether you're transporting it to a warehouse. If you go to a macro, you've got logistics inside macro, whether it's that forklift that they're using, or whether it's someone using a trolley, and we'll talk about that a bit later. Those are all movements, and that movement can happen between departments. It can happen inside a warehouse. It can happen inside a Checkers or macro. It can happen on the road in terms of from Johannesburg to Durban. If you're importing products and it's coming on ship, that's part of your sea logistics. If you're air freighting product, that's part of logistics. So all of this is linked to logistics, and the aspect of logistics, if you look at here, we talk about planning, implementing, and controlling the flow of everything. So, you know, we talk raw materials, you're talking inventory, you're talking finished goods, all the way to the point of consumption. And point of consumption is you and I that walk into the Checkers to buy it. And by the way, we transport it back home. In terms of logistics, some people have the luxury of putting it in their own car. Some people have to walk with it. Some people go into a taxi, a bus, or a train. These are all different aspects of logistics and movement. Each one has an impact on the supply chain in terms of the time it takes to deliver, in terms of the cost, in terms of the quality, etc. If, for example, I am transporting sugar, the type of truck I would need is very different if I was transporting ice cream or chicken, because that requires a cold chain. Okay, you know, one of the very sort of topical things at the moment, if you look at COVID-19 and the vaccine rollout, okay, you'll hear, I'm sure if you guys have been reading over the last few months, you know, they talk about this type of vaccine can be stored at 8 degrees, and that type of vaccine must be stored at -25 degrees. How do we handle the warehousing or the logistics to handle these two different products? It serves the same purpose, but how we manage it from a logistics point of view is very different. How we do the planning, how we implement it is all very, very different. And that is why what we, I'm imparting this is I'm trying to explain the principle, but relevant to different examples, how you apply the principle is very different. And that, by the way, is the importance of, call it theoretical or book knowledge versus the practical application. And what we're trying to do with also with the coaching programs is to ensure that we try and link the theory to some practical examples, and we hope that we are creating this picture in your head that enables you to understand some of these movements. Okay, okay, I'm gonna move on. So in terms of what we're going to talk about, we're going to look at inventory in terms of storage and movement. We're going to look at what we keep, why we keep it, how do we code it, and why do we code it in terms of product coding. And then we're going to talk a little bit about warehousing equipment. And guys, like I said, if you just take storage and movement of inventory, it's so large, it's so big. We just put the three sort of more pertinent elements down that we think is relevant. Obviously, in other courses, it expands on even more. Okay. So if we then look at warehousing, and I think someone said warehousing as well. I think it was Lungelo that said that. So again, lots of different parts of warehousing. Okay, but what is a warehouse? So some people talk about a warehouse, some people talk about a stock room, some people talk about a storage facility. But essentially, by definition, if you are keeping something, then it's a warehouse. Your fridge at home is your mini warehouse. Right? Where you keep your groceries is your mini warehouse. So a warehouse just varies by size, okay, and what you put in there, and you get different types of warehousing. And as you can imagine, in any supply chain, because you've got so many steps or so many links in the chain, it costs you time and money to get your product, from farm all the way through to consumer. Warehousing is one aspect of that. So warehousing is one aspect of that. Now, in this particular slide, what we're going to talk about, and I'm just going to get my highlighter working again, is when we talk about warehousing, the question is, where do I put this warehouse? How many do I have? So if you take as an example, this particular example here, we've got one warehouse servicing, let's say, all of South Africa. And I do apologize if there's students from outside the country as well, if I'm using just a South African example, but in whichever country you can relate it, just change the names. So if you've got one warehouse servicing all of South Africa, it has a certain impact because you've got one and you've got it in, let's say, Johannesburg. Okay. Now that from that warehouse, you have to deliver to every location in the country, maybe even across the border into Mozambique and Zimbabwe as well. That means it comes with a certain cost. Okay, it comes with a certain customer service level, and a certain lead time. So in other words, how long does it take me to deliver to my customer? If I go to this example, where I now got two warehouses, and let's assume one's in Durban and one's in Johannesburg. Right? Again, it has an impact on lead time, on cost, on customer service. Okay? If you have three, what's the implications of it? So what you can see is that you can choose to have any number of warehouses in any number of locations, but each one comes with a cost. So there's a cost of building your warehouse and then operating your warehouse. As you can imagine, to build one will cost you X amount, to build two is more. To run one warehouse costs you so much, to run two is even more. Now, a lot of times, and this is the conundrum we face in developing countries like South Africa, is on the one side, I want to create more jobs. Okay. Which means if I have three warehouses, even better, I can create so many more jobs. The problem, however, is each one comes with a cost. Now that cost, if I take my Coke example, that cost gets recovered in the cost of the Coke. So if I had, I'm making this up, if I had one warehouse and I currently pay 10 Rand for this cost of Coke, when I go and add these other warehouses in, and this cost starts increasing, okay, the price of that Coke starts going up, which means you and I pay more for the product. So our basket of products don't cost us the same anymore. It actually costs us more. And that is why the optimization part of the supply chain, the industrial engineering part of the supply chain is so critical. Because we then have to say, but hang on, what's the best point then? Is two warehouses the right number? Is three the right number? Or is one the right number? Okay. Now, what we then look at, and there's different mechanisms to look at that to say, but, and I'm sure some of you are saying, but hang on, if I've got more warehouses, the distance to travel from here to there is much shorter and is much cheaper than if I travel from Johannesburg to Durban. And you're right. So when we look at these types of projects, what we look at is, as I increase my warehouses, my transport cost decreases. At some point, if I find the sweet spot between number of warehouses and reduction in transport costs, it's the optimum level. That means my supply chain is operating as efficiently as possible, so I can get you the product in as cheap and effective a manner as humanly possible. As soon as I start going past it, my transport cost decreases, but my warehouse cost increases, so my overall cost goes up. So it's really about finding that sweet spot of where you can balance both. And the one thing I want you guys to remember, in supply chains, in warehousing, in inventory, there's so many different KPIs or key performance indicators. Sometimes what happens is we want to make an improvement, so we say, do this, and it improves that KPI, but another KPI suffers. So if I give you an example of that, we could say in a warehouse, you know, it's very simple. I got three warehouses. Let me close two of them down, because then my warehouse cost drops and I look like I'm doing a very, very good thing for the company. But my lead time to my customer increases, which means previously I used to deliver in 1 day. Now I deliver in 3 days. what happens is I then start losing customers because they want quick service and they don't want to wait for me anymore. So they go to another competitor, which means I might have saved some cost, yes, on warehouse, but my turnover also dropped because I didn't think about the supply chain or the business in a holistic manner. I'm just going to pause there. Any questions from anybody in the team or any of the delegates? Whilst I go to the next slide.
Nothing in the chat box. I don't see any hand raised. So I think
Okay,
we're all
perfect.
good.
Thank you. It either means I'm very self-explanatory or I have put everybody to sleep. Okay, thank you, Faith. Faith says all good. Thanks for that. It's good to have feedback because then I know I'm not talking to myself. So yeah, so now we go to warehouse design. And so just give me a second. Yeah. Okay, so warehouse design is, and again, it's a very complex discussion point. As you can imagine, if you've designed your house or you want to put another room to your home, imagine the amount of discussions and thought you'll had amongst yourselves and then with the architect. And now imagine wanting to do that for a warehouse. And again, I do apologize, maybe not the best topic to bring up as an example, but given everything that happened in the last few weeks, it's actually a good example because we had so many warehouses that got burned. And as you can imagine, a lot of those companies are now saying, how do we rebuild this warehouse? And hopefully some of them are saying, hey, but hang on, our old warehouse wasn't as efficient because it had some design flaws in it. Now, what do we need to think about in our new design? Okay, and that's where this sort of slide is actually talking about that. So I'm going to very quickly go through it. So for example, in this particular example here, oops, sorry. In this particular example on the left, these lines are the boundaries. Now what you can see, for example, because what they're saying in this example, they're illustrating that there's also a space consideration. Can your truck actually turn in here? If you assume those big super links that are 30 meters in length, right? And the answer is probably no. Whereas if you look at this example, they changed the docking doors so that it's easier for the truck to get in there. So even when they design the warehouse, they have to consider the boundary lines or the yard space. Now, often when people look at warehouse design, they sort of ignore the outside of the warehouse. And yard management and those types of things is a very, very important thing, because if you, for example, got one truck parked in here to come in and this one wants to come out, the truck can't get to this point. So you create a bottleneck right here. So you want to design the flow, not just inside your warehouse, which we'll talk about just now, but you want to design the flow inside your yard. Okay. And you'll see a lot of times people have truck parks, etc. So these are some of the things that they look at to facilitate the flow on the outside. And in this example, it's really your docking bays. So you can see how they change it. One can argue that you could put another, hypothetically speaking, you could put a gate there, right? And then you have a couple more doors here. So there's lots of ways to skin the cat, and that's what I'm really trying to say, based on the constraints you have within your particular property. Sorry, I'm just going to clear this. There we go. Okay, so now we got an example of where we come inside the warehouse. Okay, and what you can see here is, if you look at this, they talk about high usage access frequency. So you enter the doors here and they've got racking inside. And what they do is, and a bit later, we're going to talk about Pareto or ABC classification. But very quickly, ABC classification really means my A SKUs is my high usage SKUs, and my C, I don't need it so often. Now, why is this important? Because if I keep my A SKUs as close to the door, my entry exit point as possible, it means I minimize my distance. Right? Now, why is it important? When you minimize your travel distance within the warehouse, right? There's two benefits. One, I can load a truck in a shorter period of time, which means my turnaround time is quicker, which means I can negotiate better rates with the transporter because he or she does not have to have their truck parked at my warehouse for 6 hours waiting to be loaded. Now maybe I can load it in 1 hour, okay? Which means I can negotiate rates. I can get that vehicle at a cheaper price. If I get the vehicle at a cheaper price, the cost of my product, let's say the can of Coke at 10 Rand, now can reduce slightly because I've reduced transportation cost. The second element of what you look at warehouse layout in terms of where you put your ABC products is because, as some of y'all know, if y'all have an Oyster, which is those forklift trucks, those generally, they get maintained on the amount of hours they travel or the amount of distance they travel, just like your vehicle, okay? You take it for an annual service, you either take it every year or every 10,000 kilometers. Your material handling equipment, your warehouse equipment that you use works very much on the same principle, okay? So what that means is, if I can reduce the hours travel inside the warehouse or the distance, I do not have to service my material handling equipment as often, okay, which reduces my cost. Okay? Also remember, depending on the type of warehouse, your forklift truck can be fuel, can be gas, can be battery. Okay. Now, when you're designing your layout, the amount of fuel, gas, or battery power you need dictates the cost of running that piece of equipment. Just like you're driving your car. You drive it more, you burn more fuel, it costs you more money. It's the exact same thing with the material handling equipment within a warehouse. So if you get your layout right, you can minimize that operational movement, which minimizes your time, which minimizes your cost, which means that your supply chain is more cost effective. And why am I saying supply chain? And I'm talking to the two individuals now, is because that supply chain is what dictates what price your product is put on the shelf for. So the Coke you're buying from Checkers, or the chicken or the meat or the butter, is all determined by all these activities within the supply chain. And that's how it affects each and every one of us. Okay? So that's essentially some of the considerations that that you would give to it. Okay, I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to ask if there's any questions. But Lungelo, I want to ask you a question specifically. Is this making a little bit more sense to you? Is it helped, given one of your objectives was to get a little bit more into warehousing? We will talk about inventory a bit later as well. And the next one is on product coding, which also links up with warehousing. But I just wanted to see whether at the moment it's satisfying some of your particular requirements. Lungelo, you don't have to answer verbally. If you want to put it in the chat, you can too, whatever you're comfortable with. Is Lungelo still with us?
Yes, I see he's still here, so probably he's typing in the response.
Okay.
I'll check that for you.
Okay, so I'll move on, and then we'll wait for that response. I don't want to put him under pressure unnecessarily either.
Yeah.
Okay, so next we talk about product codes. Now, the first question is, what is a product code? So very simplistically, when you guys go into Checkers and you'll buy a product, they scan it. And when they scan it, the price comes up. And that's how you know how much to pay. Sometimes, however, you'll go in, for example, and you'll tell them, I want this, but there's no tag on it. So they can't scan that product and they have to go and double check. So in essence, that's your product code. It's unique identifier to that particular item. You also get unique product codes where, let's say, Coke or a Unilever or Tiger Brands or any of these companies assigns a unique code to, let's say, that product. So if I've got these products sitting in the warehouse, they update and downdate because I'm scanning it in and I'm scanning it out. And I'm sure you'll have all seen those people with those Andel scanners, and they just scan it and it gives you a price. Okay, so that is product code. Okay? Now, the product code in its uniqueness contains information, a whole bunch of information. Okay, and where does it contain? What types of information does it contain? Technical specifications, the pricing we spoke about, what's the cost behind it. If you click on it, it tells you what the sales history could have been over the last five months or 6 months. Hence things like safety handling, picking instructions. How do I pack it? What's the dispatch instructions? What's the pricing or invoicing? So it can link a whole bunch of information to this product code. Now, why is this important? And again, to use an example of Tiger Brands just did that recall on the canned food. Now, when they picked up that there was a potential error, they went and looked at which product codes were affected. They then went into their system, their ERP system. Sorry, I'm just going to highlight here. They then went to the ERP system. They looked at that particular code, and that code gave them information like stock control. How much stock do I have in my warehouse? So for that particular code, as an example, I made 1,000 cans. I've got 500 sitting in my warehouse, and it will tell you which warehouse it's sitting. So if in that warehouse example, we had 3 warehouses or 2 warehouses, it will tell me what I've got in that warehouse and what I've got in that warehouse. Where's the location? It will tell me that, okay? It will then tell me that product, to which suppliers is it linked? So in other words, where did I get the raw material to make those cans from? Okay. It will tell me from an invoicing point of view, who did I sell it to? So I know if I've got 500 sitting in the warehouse, I've got 500 that I delivered to some store somewhere. Okay. And that links with your sales. So now when I want to do a recall, right, I know to go to my warehouse, I'll get the 500. I know that I've got 500 sitting in trade. And out of that 500 sitting in trade, I know I sold, making up numbers here, 250 to Checkers and the other 250 to Pick and Pay. If I then go to Checkers and I say, listen, I put that in your distribution center in Gauteng, where did you send it? They'll pick up using that code where they sent it to in terms of the stores. I can go to the stores and uplift it. If anything went out to the consumer, that's why they make a communication in the public eye to say, can you all bring that stock back? But they know what stock sits where, excuse me, using that product code. And they can also trace backwards to see what products and from which suppliers did they get it. And that's how they use it. Okay. Sorry, I'm just working with this. Yeah. And all of that sits on the ERP, which is enterprise resource planning software. And this software basically ties in all the different parts of your business, from HR to finance, within supply chain, it's warehousing, it's transport, it's planning, all of it. So you've got this almost like a centralized database or brain that ties everything together. So if you imagine the business or the supply chain as your body, hands, feet, fingers, etc., then the ERP is a part of your brain, but also all the nerves that connect the different parts together. So everything's talking to each other. So there's synchronization. And that's the purpose of your ERP. And your product codes enables the uniqueness within the ERP. So everything has to have a unique name. Okay, perfect. I see Lungelo says, yes, it did help. I'm glad. Then we come to materials handling equipment, okay, which is exactly what it means. And this is the other thing, guys, that I want to, for those of y'all that are doing this because y'all going to write some exams or tests, to those of you all who are going to apply this in industry, in your homes and your work, etc., don't overcomplicate it. Okay. Always link it to something you know, like materials handling equipment. It sounds very fancy, but it's really anything you use to transport something from one place to the other. Your kettle at home, in a very simplistic form, is a material handling piece of equipment, or your jug, because you're using it to transport water from the tap to another place. Your bucket is a material handling, your spade, all of those things are material handling equipment. If you're eating with a fork and knife, transporting the food from your plate to your mouth using the fork is a very simplistic form of material handling equipment. So we all actually use it in our everyday lives. We just don't realize it sometimes. So maybe we didn't just stop and think about it. So if you look at what we've got on the screen here, the different types of material handling equipment, you've got things from dollies and trolleys, to roll cages, to pickers, to pallet trucks, to forklift trucks, etc., conveyors. So I'm just going to give you some very simplistic examples of this. So we spoke about the warehouse. Now, one of the things that we would use is forklift trucks, and we've seen those things in macro. They're probably the more common types. Then you've seen pallet trucks. Now you get manual pallet trucks, sometimes called pallet jacks, where the person literally has to push and pull it, and they can move one pallet at a time. And then you get the automated ones where you see the guy standing on the back and they ride it around. Now, obviously, each one has a different purpose. Each one can do different things, if I can call it that. Pickers are those people that basically, if I order, like I'm sure some of you guys, if you'll order from Checkers, what's it, 60 and 60, they'll send their pickers around the store to put things into a trolley. In a more formal environment, it might be a dolly, which is really just higher cages and all those types of things, right? When you look at SPAR, for example, when SPAR from their central DC to their stores all over the country, when they get your order ready, they put it in roll cages, and then they roll that cage as is into the truck. And when the truck stops at SPAR in central Durban, they pull out their 2 roll cages, they take it to them, they offload it, they bring the empty ones back. Okay? So that's how they do things and get things much more efficiently as well. Listen, conveyors, you guys have all seen this. Obviously, conveyors is really a flat belt, or it could be a roller conveyor, lots of different types of conveyors. But again, it's used to transport things. So, for example, when you go to Checkers and you pay at the cashier, you put your product there, she pushes a button or E, and it moves it towards the cashier. That's a conveyor belt. It's just a very short one. Okay, you can get conveyors. I mean, like when I used to work in SAB, their conveying in their plant was a couple of kilometers long. Okay, so that can show you the scale of how big things can be. You know, in Unilever, for example, one of their plants, and I stand to be corrected, one of their warehouses was the equivalent of 16 or 17 soccer fields. As you can imagine, the pallet trucks and forklift trucks had to do a lot of moving there. Okay. Now, just remember, each one has a different purpose. So if you take forklift trucks as an example, you got some that can only go XI. Like if you go into macro, it's about 3, the racks, 3 pallets high, 1, 2, 3. If you go to the big warehouses, there's sometimes 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. Each one requires a different types of material handling equipment to enable you to do that. Okay.
Yes, if I may interject, Ken. So
yes, please.
Yes, I've actually sent a link for those that might be interested in viewing the actual equipment, how it looks like. Maybe if you've got no idea, even after the explanation. So I've just dropped a link where you can view all these various equipments and more, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for that, Truman. Sorry, I just see there's a question or comment. Okay, Faith says thank you. So the next one is, and I'm sure you'll have all seen this in those different cardboard boxes, whether you get it delivered from Take-A-Lot or whether you walked into a store, whatever the case might be. If you bought a fridge, you see some of these signs, these packaging signs, and they basically printed on the side of your carton or your box, or whatever the case might be. So what I want is just as an exercise. So what do they mean? So if I take this one, what does it mean? So top left, what does that mean? And Truman, can we then maybe just pause for 5 minutes? And if we can just ask not even 5 minutes, I think maybe less, maybe 2 minutes. And if we can just maybe ask the delegates to sort of tell us what these mean. And you don't have to know everything. What you can do is, let's call this one, let's call that 1, 2, 3. So on the chat function, go whatever you know. If you know number 1, say number 1 and what that means. If you know only number 5, then put number 5 and say what that means. Okay. So let's start the clock. Let's give the guys, it's 10:01. Let's give them 1 minute.
Yeah, I see the first responses come through from Tesvir saying that
this side up.
Yes, this side up.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so that's taken care of. Let's go to any of the others. And guys, you don't have to go in any order, just what y'all know.
Okay, there's number 2. Yeah, feel free. Sizwe, I see you want to talk, so you can just shout if you prefer.
Okay. Yeah, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, we can.
Okay. I think number 2, it means it's the product inside is fragile or breakable.
Yes, well done.
And then number 3, keep away from rain, so you can't store it outside the warehouse.
Yes, great.
And then I think number 4 is to keep away from sun. I know, like, I'm working for Heineken, we've got beers that we can store outside the warehouse and the beers that we cannot store. So, and number 5 can be handled with care.
Yes.
And then not sure about number 6. I think number 8, it's recyclable.
Yes, well done. So I saw a note coming out. Number 6 is temperature. So in other words, sensitive to certain temperatures, and you must look on the packaging to see what temperature. So that could be something that needs to be frozen, something that's ambient, etc. Number 9, someone said no stacking one top of the other. It's only number 7 that's outstanding. But yeah, guys, well done. Sizwe, I well done on responding, etc. But you're also my new best friend now, since you mentioned Heineken.
Okay.
We must talk after.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, so number 7 is basically don't hook it. So in other words, don't use a hook to pull and drag. Right? So if you look at that, you can see there's a handle on top and the bottom is a hook. Because what happens is sometimes the guys use a hook to hook the product and then they pull it across, whether it's on a truck or on a trolley or on any particular bed. So that's really what that means. Great stuff. Well done, guys. Oh. Clear. Okay, then we've got environmental standards. Now, guys, ISO stands for International Standards Organization. And what it really, really means is that this organization sets the different, let's call it management system requirements. Now, it could be quality, it could be environmental standards, it could be health and safety standards, food safety standards. And if your company has that ISO logo, if I can call it that, whether it's ISO 9000, for example, is relevant to quality. ISO 18000 is relevant to environmental. So Each one of those standards, if your company adheres to it, then it means you're functioning at the right level to ensure, in the case of ISO 9000, a good quality product. Okay. If you want to show people that you are an environmentally responsible company, then you should be having an ISO 18000 sort of certification. And that's really what it talks about. Okay. Now, in this particular one, which is on environmental standards, it's really saying, how do I, as an organization, reduce my environmental impact? Now, for example, if we spoke about, let's take the warehousing layout example. We said, if we do the warehouse layout properly, I can reduce my travel time within my warehouse, which means I don't have to burn so much of gas or fuel or even use so much of battery power because I've reduced my transport time. What does that mean? I've reduced my impact of that warehouse because I don't, instead of buying, excuse me, 100 gas canisters for the month, I'm now only buying 80. I've reduced my impact. Okay. If I, for example, collect rainwater and use that for the ablution facilities, I'm water harvesting, which means I've reduced. If I use the roof of my warehouse to, for example, put solar panels and generate my own electricity, I'm reducing my carbon footprint, therefore I'm reducing my environmental impact. So in all aspects of the supply chain, and certainly warehousing and logistics, I can do that. So for example, on trucks, I'm sure you would have seen some trucks where on the top of the roof, they've got these almost like windbreakers that goes over it. Okay. And that's there is so that when you're driving, you direct the wind flow around your vehicle. What that means is you create less drag or resistance on your vehicle, you burn more fuel, you burn less fuel, sorry. If you're burning less fuel, not only is it costing you less money on fuel costs, but you're actually having a lower impact because you're not generating to global warming and those types of things. You know, I got a friend of mine who works in the Durban port. They've actually, when I say recently, quite a while back, they've got these robots that they bought called AGVs, automated guided vehicles. And they drop them in the water and it goes through the ship at the bottom and it inspects the base of the ship. Okay. And it makes sure that there's no sea creatures attached to it. And the simple reason for that is because when the ship is in motion, the more you got on the bottom of the ship, the more resistance there is, which means the ship has to burn more fuel to drive the engines to get the same speed. Okay? So all of these things, little innovative things can be done to say, how do I reduce my environmental impact? We spoke about warehouse locations and the balancing of warehouse location versus reducing the distance we have to travel for transport. Okay, all of those decisions has an impact on the environment as well. Okay. Truman, you know me. If I start, I just keep going. I see it's almost 10 past. It's almost 10 past 10 now. And I'm not sure. So guys, in this section, there's a bit of a learning exercise that I would like you all to do. But Truman, what I'm thinking is, let's go through this. And when we give them time to think about it, we also incorporate a bit of a leg stretch and a break in there. I don't know how you want to play it.
All right.
You fine with that?
Okay. Yes, I'm fine with that. But maybe let's just check, how are the energy levels? Everyone, you can just unmute yourself or through the chats. Can you take a break now, or you want to go for the exercise, the class exercise on the screen? All right, so if you're not talking to me, then we are going to decide what to do. I don't see any hands raised. I don't see any chats.
You know what, Truman, let's ask the guys. So, you know, we got some of the guys who are quite vocal. Sizwe, Lungelo.
Yep.
Asisipo, come
Vegas,
talk to us.
Vegas, Tasvir, what's your take? Break. Minente says break. Not much to say there, just break, eh?
Okay. then break it is. So guys, what
Yeah.
I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave this on screen. It's 10 past the hour. Is 10 minutes?
Yep.
Is 10. So we'll come back at okay, let's give it 15 minutes. It's been a hectic hour and a bit. So guys, we'll return at 25 past 10.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave this on screen so that if anybody comes back early, if you want to read through it, please do so. And yeah, we'll reconvene at 25 past 10.
Yeah. I've also
Okay,
copied.
perfect.
I've also shared the same exercise through the chats.
Okay, perfect. And
Okay.
Truman, wherever we're streaming, they would also know that we're breaking, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. See you guys in 15 minutes.
All right.
Hello. Hello.